Okay, so imagine this. An AI that doesn't just, write code, it actually hunts down its own bugs
Right.
and tests its own work, all autonomously. It's almost like having, I don't know, a team of junior developers built into one system.
It's a pretty powerful concept.
Stick with us, because in this deep dive, we're going to unpack exactly how this thing works and, well, what it might mean for the future of making software.
Exactly. Today, we're really digging into OpenAI's new codex. It's this cloud-based software engineering agent they've built right into ChatGPT.
Okay.
And our goal here is to get past the buzz and really understand its capabilities. How does it stack up against older AI? What are people actually doing with it? And ultimately, why should you care if you're interested in tech?
All right, let's break it down then. How are we going to tackle this? We'll be dissecting Codex's main features, bit by bit.
Yeah, maybe use some analogies to keep it clear.
Good idea. And we'll look at real examples from folks who've used it early on. And, of course, talk about the good stuff and maybe where it's still, got room to grow, like getting the inside track.
And we'll try hard to keep the super technical stuff, the jargon, to a minimum.
Right.
So whether you code all day or you're just kind of AI curious, you should be able to follow along and see why Codex feels like a pretty big step.
Okay, let's dive in. The core of Codex. What can it actually do?
Yeah.
One thing that jumped out at me was this idea of handling multiple tasks at once. How does that work?
Yeah, that's one of the really interesting parts, this parallel task handling. So unlike, older tools that mostly did one thing at a time.
Right, one prompt, one response.
Exactly. Codex is built to juggle several coding jobs simultaneously. So imagine you've got a bug fix needed over here.
Okay.
Some docs that need writing over there, maybe a small new feature request, instead of doing them one after the other.
Which takes time.
Codex can basically spin up processes to work on all of them in parallel. It's kind of like having several virtual devs working on different pieces at the same time. It can really cut down the overall time.
So much faster project completion, potentially. Is that the main idea?
That's a huge part of the promise. And
yes,
to make sure these tasks don't, step on each other's toes.
Yeah, you need isolation.
Right? Each task runs in its own secure cloud sandbox. So when you give it a job, Codex sets up this isolated virtual space. Think of it like a totally fresh, clean computer in the cloud.
Okay.
It gets preloaded with your project's code, maybe pulling directly from GitHub. And then, this is key, it's air-gapped, no internet connection out.
For security.
Precisely. It can read files, change files, run tests inside that box, but it can't phone home or access external networks. Keeps your stuff safe while it works. Each sandbox is independent.
Okay, so isolated workspaces. Makes sense. But how does it actually get my code, if my project's on GitHub, say?
Yeah, good question. You can basically think of Codex like a developer working in the cloud. You can link it to your GitHub repo.
Okay.
And it will essentially check out a copy, populating its sandbox with your code base, the right version and everything. So it has the full context, the file structure, all that.
Right.
Then it can navigate around, open files, edit them, even use your existing test scripts or build tools within that sandbox.
And when it's done?
When it finishes a task, it figures out exactly what changed, creates a diff. Just the lines added, removed, modified.
Like a standard code review diff.
Exactly. And you can then take that diff, maybe apply it locally, or even with a click, turn it into a GitHub pull request, ready for a human to look over.
That sounds incredibly smooth. So what kinds of coding tasks can I hand off to it? Is it just bug fixing?
No, it's broader than that. OpenAI sees it as a pretty versatile helper. So yeah, fixing bugs, but also writing entirely new features, answering questions you have about the code.
Like, what does this function do?
Exactly. Or refactoring code, cleaning it up, making it more efficient. Improving test coverage is another big one, or even drafting technical documentation.
Wow. Yeah.
So you could ask it, like, add a dark mode toggle to the settings page, or maybe explain this weird error message I keep getting.
And it tries to make sure the code works.
Yeah, that's another key part. It can run your project's tests after making changes, and if they fail, it can actually try to iterate, fix the problem, run tests again until hopefully they pass.
How long do these tasks usually take?
They're saying typically around maybe 1 to 30 minutes, and you can watch its progress in real time. You get logs showing what it's doing, compiling, testing, things like that.
Okay, so it's not just spitting out code. It's trying to ensure it's functional.
Yeah.
What about the style of the code? Does it look like a human wrote it?
That was a big focus, apparently. The model behind it, Codex-1, was specifically trained using reinforcement learning on tons of real pull requests and coding examples.
Reinforcement learning,
Yeah.
like learning from feedback.
Kind of, yeah. Learning through trial and error, getting rewarded for good outputs. The goal was to make it produce code that looks clean, ready for review. It generally sticks to instructions and follows common coding styles. It even writes decent commit messages and PR summaries, apparently, like a careful developer would. And that self-healing thing we mentioned, running tests and fixing issues, helps ensure it's not just correct syntax, but actually works.
Okay, paint me a picture. How would I actually use this inside ChatGPT? Walk me through it.
All right, so you're in ChatGPT. Maybe there's a dedicated codex section. You type in your request, your prompt, like go through this user auth module and add null checks wherever user input is used.
Pretty specific.
Yeah, clarity helps. You hit go or code or whatever the button is. Then you'd see this live log pop up showing its steps, maybe cloning repository, analyzing user auth.py, running static analysis, executing unit tests.
Does you see what it's thinking?
Sort of, yeah. When it's done, it gives you a summary. Added null checks in 3 functions. And crucially, it shows the evidence, the actual file diffs. Here's what changed. And the test results, all 57 tests passed.
Ah, the proof.
Exactly. You review that diff, look at the test output. If it looks good, you can approve it, merge it, maybe pull the changes down to your machine. It's like reviewing a teammate's PR, essentially.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, I also read about something called the codex CLI and a codex-mini model. What's the deal with those?
Right, so the codex CLI, that's a command line interface. It's open source, actually.
Ah, for developers working in the terminal.
Exactly. It lets you interact with these coding models right from your local machine, from your terminal. You install it with NPM, the package manager.
Standard stuff.
Yeah. And then you can run commands like codex edit myfunction.py instructions. Refactor this to be more readable directly on your local files.
So more direct interaction on your own machine.
Precisely. And they've made the login easier. You can just use your regular ChatGPT account now. No messing with API keys directly if you don't want to. Plus, Pro users even get some free credits to try it out.
How neat.
And interestingly, they built the CLI to potentially support other AI models too, not just OpenAI's, though OpenAI's are the default.
Okay, flexible. And codex-mini. What's that?
So codex-mini is a newer, smaller model based on their O4 Mini architecture. It's optimized specifically for speed and efficiency, especially for the CLI and these local uses.
Ah, faster responses.
Exactly. Lower latency. So if you're asking quick questions or making small edits in the terminal, codex-mini can give you answers almost instantly. The full Codex one might take a little longer to spin up for those cloud tasks.
But is it still good? Does it code well?
They say it retains strong instruction following and good coding style despite being smaller. Think of it as a distilled, faster version of Codex 1 for those quicker interactions. It's the default in the CLI, and you can also call it via the API as codex-mini latest.
So CLI with mini for quick local stuff, full codex and ChatGPT for bigger cloud-based tasks. Is that the split?
That seems to be the general idea, yeah. The CLI with Mini is like your instant local copilot while you're coding. The Cloud Codex is more for those heavier, maybe asynchronous jobs it can work on in the background.
Complementary tools, then.
That's how OpenAI seems to position them, yeah. Leveraging both real-time help and the more agentic background processing.
Now, I'm really curious how this new codex, the Codex 1 model,
Right.
actually stacks up against OpenAI's previous models, like O3 or even O4 Mini. What are the real improvements here?
Yeah, that's important context. So O3 is their big general purpose model, right? It's smart, good at reasoning, and pretty capable at coding too.
Right.
But Codex 1 is basically a version of O3 that's been specifically fine-tuned just for software engineering. They trained it more on code workflows, style, even test-driven development concepts.
So more specialized knowledge.
Exactly. While O3 is versatile, Codex 1 has deeper coding expertise. Then you have 4 Mini, and thus Codex Mini, which is smaller, faster. Not quite the raw power of O3 for super complex stuff, but surprisingly good at coding and way quicker for interactive use, like in the CLI.
So it's that classic trade-off. Specialization in power versus speed and agility.
Pretty much. And the benchmarks suggest Codex 1 does produce, cleaner, more production-ready code than the base O3. It seems better at following instructions precisely.
Okay.
It can apparently handle some tough software engineering benchmark problems without needing super detailed prompts, partly because it understands typical project structures better. And a big thing, Codex 1 was tested with a much larger context window.
Meaning it can remember more, understand bigger code bases.
Exactly. It can look at more code at once, which is huge for real-world projects. That's a significant step up.
And how it operates? Is it fundamentally different, just smarter completion?
Oh, it's quite different operationally. A key thing is Codex 1 was trained to understand version control, like Git, and iterative testing. It doesn't just give you a block of code.
Right.
It generates changes as diffs, it runs tests. If they fail, it tries to fix the code based on the test results. That's a big leap from the older models that mostly did one-shot prompt response stuff.
So it acts more like a developer workflow.
Yeah, people are calling it like a junior engineer on steroids or saying it can scaffold out most of a PR. While the code style might look similar to other good AI assistants, it's this ability to plan and execute steps, run tests, refine that makes it feel more agentic, like it's taking initiative.
That does sound like a potential game changer for workflows. So who's actually using this right now? Any early results from companies?
Yeah, we're starting to see some interesting feedback from the early testers. Cisco, for example, is looking at it to speed up their engineering projects. They see it as a productivity multiplier for their teams.
Okay, multiplier, not replacement.
That's the common theme. Temporal, they do workflow stuff, reported something pretty striking. A 40% reduction in time to resolve code issues using Codex for debugging and refactoring.
Wow, 40%. That's huge.
It is. They also said it helps developers stay focused by letting Codex handle some of the background grunt work.
Any smaller company seeing benefits?
Yep. Superhuman, the email client company, uses it for those smaller, repetitive tasks, improving tests, fixing minor things. And their CEO mentioned something cool. Even their product managers are using it to make simple code changes, like UI tweaks, which engineers then just review.
Really? Non-engineers contributing code?
Apparently so, for simple stuff. They called it like having a 10x engineer embedded in ChatGPT. And Kodiak Robotics, the self-driving truck company, uses it for writing debug tools, boosting test coverage, refactoring, and even just understanding their own complex code base history faster. So yeah, diverse uses across different scales.
It sounds like even OpenAI itself is using it quite a bit internally.
Oh yeah, they're definitely dogfooding it. Their own engineers use it for refactoring, writing tests, even helping triage on-call alerts faster.
Ah, reducing that dreaded context switching.
Exactly. They find it lets engineers stay focused on the main tasks. Their advice, based on using it themselves, is give it clear, well-scoped tasks, and don't be afraid to run multiple Codex agents in parallel on different things. That internal use is a pretty strong signal of its utility.
Okay, this all sounds incredibly powerful.
Okay.
But with AI doing more complex coding, what about safety, security, trust? What guardrails are in place?
Yeah, super important questions. OpenAI stresses that safety and trust were big considerations. We mentioned the secure air-gapped sandbox earlier. That's a huge piece, preventing network access or data leaks.
Right, the isolation.
Plus, they've specifically trained Codex to recognize and refuse requests that look like attempts to generate malware or other harmful code. So some built-in ethical checks.
Okay, so it tries to avoid misuse.
Exactly. And for trust, transparency is key. That review panel in ChatGPT we talked about, it shows the diffs, the summary, but also citations linking actions back to specific files or logs, and the full terminal output, including test results.
So you can trace everything it did.
You can trace every step, and if it gets stuck or tests fail or it's just unsure, it's designed to tell you that explicitly. Rather than just guessing and potentially making things worse, it fosters more of a partnership.
That transparency seems vital. What if my project has really specific rules or ways of doing things? Can I tell Codex about those?
Yes, that's where this agent.md file comes in. It's a file you can put in your repo.
Okay.
And in there, you write instructions for Codex. Use these commands to run tests. Follow these linting rules. Here's our directory structure. Adhere to these coding conventions. It helps align the agent with your team's specific practices.
Ah, customization for better results and trust.
Exactly. But ultimately, and OpenAI really emphasizes, this Codex is an assistant. The human is always in charge. You have to review everything it proposes. You have to approve the changes before they get merged, treat its output like a PR from any other developer, review it carefully.
Got it. So augmenting the developer, not replacing their judgment. Okay, let's shift to access. Who can use Codex right now? And what's the cost?
Okay, so as of launch, it's available immediately for ChatGPT Pro, Team, and Enterprise subscribers.
The paid tiers.
Right. And for this initial research preview phase, they're giving those users generous access, basically at no extra cost. Let people try it out.
But that won't last forever.
Probably not. They've said rate limits and usage-based pricing for Codex within ChatGPT are coming down the line. What about other users? ChatGPT Plus and Edu users, our next in-line access is coming soon, but they haven't detailed the usage limits for those tiers yet.
Okay. And what if I want to use the underlying AI model in my own tools via the API?
Right. For that, the codex-mini latest model is available through the OpenAI API.
Just the mini one.
Currently, yes. The full codex one is only inside ChatGPT for now. The API pricing for Mini is 1.50 cent per million input tokens and $6 per million output tokens.
Tokens being like units of text.
Yeah, roughly. And there's a pretty good discount, 75% if the prompt is cached, meaning you've sent it before. That helps for repetitive tasks. Plus, and pro users also get some free API credits to play with.
So API access is mainly for the faster mini model right now. Any hints about future pricing?
They'll likely evolve it, maybe some free tier usage included, then pay-as-you-go, perhaps custom enterprise plans. And they mentioned the codex-mini model will get regular updates.
Okay, so tiered access starting with premium users. Got it. Now, what's the general vibe out there? What are people saying about Codex? Experts, developers?
Definitely a lot of excitement. People seem genuinely impressed by the agentic part, the fact that it does more than just complete code. It can handle multi-step tasks on its own.
Going beyond autocomplete.
Way beyond. People are sharing examples of it doing complex stuff like setting up Kubernetes configs or translating code between languages with pretty minimal prompting. That's generated a lot of buzz.
So the feeling is this is a real step up.
Yeah, the consensus seems to lean towards it being a serious productivity booster rather than, something that's going to take jobs immediately. The partners like Cisco, Superhuman echo that it's a multiplier for human developers.
And the benefits seem real. Like that temporal number.
That 40% faster issue resolution at temporal is definitely grabbing headlines. Plus, the stories about shipping features faster or non-engineers contributing, that makes it feel tangible. It's also seen as OpenAI really stepping into that competitive AI coding assistant space against Anthropic, Google, Cursor, and others. It feels like part of a bigger shift in developable workflows.
What else are people liking?
The parallel task thing gets a lot of praise, too. The idea you can fire off a few tasks and kind of turn your brain off for those while you focus elsewhere, that resonates with developers.
Makes sense, but surely it's not all positive. Any criticisms or words of caution?
Oh, for sure. There's definitely caution alongside the excitement. People point out that even when Codex finishes, a human still needs to carefully review and likely refine the code. It's not perfect.
Right. The oversight is still needed.
Yeah, and some worry about the management aspect. If you have too many virtual devs working, could senior devs get swamped reviewing all the output? There's still skepticism about whether LLMs can truly replace even junior devs across the board with all the nuance involved.
Any specific features people miss?
One common point is the lack of mid-task intervention. Once you start a Codex task, you basically have to wait until it finishes. You can't jump in halfway and steer it.
Unlike some other tools with shorter feedback loops.
Exactly. Some developers prefer that more interactive style. The counter-argument is maybe Codex's underlying model is strong enough that it needs less steering, but it's a point of discussion.
And the usual AI concerns. Bugs, security.
Always. Questions about potential bugs, security flaws it might introduce, and even the long-term impact on developer skills like knowledge atrophy if AI does too much grunt work. But then others say it frees up juniors from grunt work to learn more complex things. It's that classic infinite number of junior engineers, but you're still the senior in charge kind of feeling.
Okay, so powerful, but needs careful handling and isn't a magic bullet. Looking ahead then, what are the known limitations right now and what's on the roadmap?
Okay, current limitations. First, it doesn't understand images or UIs. So no front-end visual design help. Second, that lack of mid-task intervention we just talked about.
Right.
Third, turnaround time can sometimes be longer than just doing it yourself, especially for simple things. Fourth, the quality can vary, depends a lot on how well you define the task.
It's garbage in, garbage out, potentially.
Sort of, yeah. And remember, it's still a beta, a research preview, and its environment is scoped. It can't just access external databases or APIs directly due to that sandbox security.
Okay, quite a few things still, but they have plans to improve.
Absolutely. The roadmap suggests they're thinking about converging the CLI and the ChatGPT codex into maybe a more unified suite, potentially with IDE integration.
Right inside VS Code or similar?
That seems like a logical direction. They're also talking about multiple agents collaborating. Imagine one codex agent working on the back end, another on the tests, coordinating somehow.
Wow, like a virtual team.
Yeah, handling longer, more complex projects over time as the models get better. Deeper integrations with platforms like GitHub, Azure DevOps are likely to, maybe even automating some DevOps or CI/CD tasks.
What about learning? Will it get smarter about my specific project?
That's on the roadmap too, enhanced learning and memory. The idea is it could retain knowledge across tasks, build up a better understanding of your specific project's context over time, and building on agentest.md, expect more ways to customize its style and behavior based on feedback.
So not just fixing current limits, but really expanding its scope and intelligence. What's the really big picture here?
OpenAI sees Codex as a big step toward a more generally capable agentic ChatGPT that can handle tasks across many domains, not just code. They likely see a future where real-time assistants, like the CLI, and asynchronous agents, like the Cloud Codex, work together seamlessly.
And near term, what are they likely focused on right now?
Probably improving reliability, tackling that mid-task feedback issue, rolling out access more broadly, and just gathering tons of data and feedback to make it better. They also started a $1 million fund to encourage people to build tools around the CLI and API.
Okay, fostering an ecosystem.
Seems like it. It really feels like a pivotal moment. Codex isn't replacing developers, but it's acting like this super-powered intern, boosting productivity now, with a trajectory towards much deeper human-AI collaboration in software down the road.
This has been super illuminating. A really fascinating look at Codex. Let's try and boil it down to some key takeaways for everyone listening.
Sounds good. So first takeaway, Codex is this autonomous software engineering agent, lives inside ChatGPT, works in the cloud. Second, it's powered by Codex 1, a model fine-tuned for human-like coding and, importantly, iterative testing.
Right, the self-healing aspect.
Third, a big deal is its ability to handle multiple tasks in parallel, securely, in isolated sandboxes, and it integrates with your codebase.
Got it.
Fourth, there's the Codex CLI with the codex-mini model for fast local coding help right in your terminal.
The quick co-pilot.
Exactly. Fifth, early users are already reporting real benefits, faster development, offloading repetitive work.
Tangible results.
Sixth, it's built with safety, transparency, and user control in mind. Sandboxes, citations, review needed.
Crucial.
Seventh, Access is rolling out ProTeam Enterprise now, plus eDO soon, with API access for codex-mini.
Check your subscription.
And finally, eighth, it represents really significant potential to change software workflows through much deeper human-AI collaboration.
Okay, that's a great summary. So here's a final thought to chew on. Could you, listening right now, end up managing not just human developers, but virtual teams of AI coding agents in the future?
It's a wild thought, isn't it?
It really is. It makes you consider how tools like this might weave into your own work, your own field, even if you're not a coder today. The evolution of these AI assistants is clearly accelerating, and, well, it's going to be quite something to watch unfold. Thanks for diving deep with us today.